Minister, we're talking here, let's just return to what the topic here is actually about. Because people sometimes use this debate in the light of the roadblockers and the protesters and the people who feel they can get on buses and check passports. That we're actually talking about domestic terrorism when we're talking about people setting stuff on fire. So while it is open season for people from government and indeed from opposition to start talking about the immigration system, we need to get back here to first principles. And what we have seen over the last number of years is a spate of fires, arson attacks. And somebody's going to die. It's inevitable. And if and when that happens, we're all going to sit here and stand up and say how terrible it is. But it's absolutely predictable. So it's absolutely important that every representative from every political party in this House, and especially, I might just say, your own minister, to call out the roadblockers and the protesters and the bus invaders and the arsonists as being absolutely wrong. And when some local protesters or roadblockers get succour from local councillors, that those councillors are wrong and hauled in by their political parties. And it's not good enough to go to public meetings or public demonstrations and speak out two sides of your own mouth. We're dealing here with domestic terrorism. And nothing, no loophole in the system, no sort of, question about how the system is organised, no sort of rhetoric or community sort of unease justifies any of this, any of it. Nobody has the right to block a road. Nobody has the right to protest outside where somebody is living. Nobody has the right to intimidate mothers and children getting off a bus and going into a place where they're going to live. And nobody has the right to set fire to somewhere. And as has been stated, we've had a litany of this stuff over the last number of years. This is Alabama 1955 type behaviour, where they used to set fire to black churches. And now it's happening in this country. And the audacity of the Irish, the audacity of us. I mean, the Taoiseach, and this is my real issue now, Minister, because in the light of all this stuff, with places being set on fire, and everybody who isn't white Irish being genuinely afraid to walk the streets because of things that might be said to them. And you have protests all over the place, and roads being blocked, as I said. What do we have? What's the rhetoric from government this month? Crackdown on illegal immigration, says the Taoiseach. You, Minister, interviewed this month. We will see a lot more deportations, says the Minister for Justice. And even today, Minister Brown comes in here and speaks about clamping down. And the audacity of government, who in 3 weeks' time are going to be over in the White House, and what are you going to be asking Joe Biden about? Documentation for the illegal Irish. Can we sort out the undocumented Irish over in the States? Can we do a job for them? And yet, you use rhetoric such as clamping down, crackdown, and we're going to see an awful lot more deportations. So what have we dealt with over the last number of years, Minister? As has been said, going back to 2018, Cashmara and Moville, County Donegal, 100 asylum seekers proposed, burnt out. Shannon Key West Hotel on the Roscommon Leitrim border. Second fire, that was burnt. Second fire was set in the Shannon Key West a month later in February 2019. Later in the year, 2 fires were set over plans to accommodate asylum seekers in a 25-unit apartment complex in Ballinamore, County Leitrim. November 2022, because we had a bit of a break because of COVID. November 2022, Equestrian Centre in County Kildare, which we proposed as a location to house Ukrainian refugees, set alight. January 2023, a fire was set at Rawton House on Sherrard Street in Dublin. Violence escalated further in May. Tents belonging to homeless refugees at makeshift camp on set. By the way, Minister, it wasn't as if people weren't outside accommodation centres saying that the only solution to this was to burn them out. It wasn't as if people weren't saying this on social media channels. It wasn't as if this wasn't being reported. It wasn't as if it wasn't flagged. Same month, 2 attacks linked to refugee housing in Buncrana, County Donegal. Building in Ludden, Buncrana, where a businessman was going to establish a centre for Ukrainian refugees, set on fire. Former Gael Scully Ríordáin in Ballincollig, County Cork, targeted in July. Disused school building, subject to plans to be used for accommodating Ukrainian refugees. August, Ridge Hall, vacant building on the Shanganagh Road in Ballybrack, rumoured to be the subject for plans for housing asylum seekers, set ablaze. This is an epidemic. In any other language, in any other country, this is terrorism. Of course, your lasting legacy, Minister, will be the riots last November and burning buses. Holiday Inn Express, Callabrewer Street, set on fire because rioters thought that immigrants were inside. In Fingus, petrol bomb was thrown into a premises earmarked for refugees, setting part of it on fire. December, the most recent December, former Great Southern Hotel, Rosslare, County Wexford, being developed into a direct provision centre, was the victim of a suspected arson attack. Soon afterwards, Ross Lake Hotel, Galway, set alight. And we know what happened in Ringsend. This year, disused convent on the main street, Lanesford, County Longford, set on fire in January. And we know about the St. Bridget's nursing home in British that also went up in flames. So, we have a spate, a pattern of protests not being called out, roads being blocked, not being called out, public meetings, rhetoric, people using very violent language, not really being cracked down upon, local representatives kind of turning up or not turning up or just playing both sides. And then everybody's surprised when the thing goes up in flames. Meanwhile, you have a completely dispirited, morale on the floor, unprecedented resignations in An Garda Síochána. And what do we get from you, Minister, this year? In the light of all that, well, clearly it's been successful. Because these protests and this anger and this violence has led to government representatives, yes, saying it's terrible and it's wrong and shouldn't happen, but changing your tone when it comes to immigration, changing it. So I am not going to come in here and tell you that you need to change the immigration system. Other people may do that, but I'm not going to do that. Because I'm not afraid of an immigrant. I'm afraid of the lunatic who wants to set something on fire. I'm afraid of the person who wants to block a road. I'm afraid of the person who thinks they can board a bus and check the passport of somebody who isn't white. I'm afraid of that person. And I don't want anybody that I love anywhere near that person. So it's a crossroads in this debate, Minister. And maybe we're unfortunate because it's an election year. And that's probably why the reason you have so many councillors getting excited about it and so many government ministers kind of changing their tone. But you'll have to respect my view, Minister, that it is stunningly hypocritical of your party leader and Taoiseach Líor Varadkar to start talking about clamping down on illegal immigration while going over to the States and demanding that the US have a different regime for illegal Irish over there. This is domestic terrorism. This is people taking the law into their own hands. And if this isn't stopped and arrested, somebody's going to die. So let's just recast our brains here. Let's just recast our moral compass. Let's treat this debate with the seriousness that it deserves. That when it comes to it, there is a line beneath which none of us should fall. Oh, well, I know people have genuine concerns and, we don't understand, people have a right to express their view, absolutely. But I think we have to get back as a collective in Irish politics to say, actually, when it comes down to it, no. You don't have the right to block a road. You don't have the right to intimidate women and children. You don't have the right to spread lies. And you don't have the right to set something on fire. And that's the baseline. That's today's conversation. Issues that you may have with communication or the immigration process
or the asylum process, I would respectfully suggest are probably for another day. This is what we're talking about. People setting things on fire. And I believe it is a disgrace, Minister, that in response to this, what we're getting from government are phrases such as clampdown, crackdown, and deportation. But you won't be using any of those phrases when you talk about the undocumented Irish when you're in the White House in 3 weeks' time.